Hello, beautiful people. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is January Johnson. I am a community-based researcher working on the Indigenous cultural understandings of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias research and engagement project. And really that can be a mouthful to say sometimes. So throughout the podcast, you will hear me shortening it down to the Eye Care Project. I am so excited that I am able to, share with you some of the knowledge I have learned over the past 2 years and really, spread awareness on Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. So this podcast is an educational mini series that will be breaking down the main topic of Alzheimer's disease and related dementia into 7 smaller subtopics. And I will release them weekly or bi-weekly, kind of depending on how busy my schedule gets with once interviewing picks up. So I will try to keep each segment to around 10 minutes because it is such a heavy topic. In a respectful way, I will try to incorporate some humor to, really balance out that heaviness. And hopefully I can make you laugh. Otherwise, you guys might be like, boo, tomato, 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 poo, tomato. Hopefully you guys, hopefully I'll make you guys at least smile. And before I guess we get started, this podcast is sponsored by the Eye Care Project as well as Memory Keepers Medical Discovery Team at the University of Minnesota Duluth Medical School. Excuse me. And really the focus of the research done at Memory Keepers Medical Discovery Team is really to improve the lives of persons living with dementia across the disease trajectory, where we're carrying out our research. Specifically, the Eye Care Project, this has been such a beautiful, wonderful experience. I've met so many really wonderful people with big hearts, and it's just been a blessing of an experience. And so I am the community-based researcher here in the Red Lake community. And then we also have a researcher based out in Grand Portage up in northern Minnesota. And then we have another researcher based out on the Oneida Reservation in Wisconsin. And then also we have another community researcher based out in Manitou Island, where she carries out the research in 7 First Nation communities, in Ontario. So, yeah. And a little bit about the project, we collect qualitative data through key informant interviews and sequential focus groups. So we do a lot of the researchers, we are what we do, we recruit people to interview or participate in our sequential focus groups. And yeah, and I've met so many amazing people and I've learned a lot. Amazing people and I've learned a lot. But I'm not going to focus on, sharing any of that because that's not what this podcast is about. It's specifically, focusing on, talking about Alzheimer's and sharing Alzheimer's disease and related dementia and sharing what I've learned through a westernized medical point of view. So I really hope you guys, learned something, and I'm so excited. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Now that I got the PowerPoint up, I just want to say before we get started, the resources that I use to put together this presentation will be located at the end of this PowerPoint on the resources slide. Also, my email is located up on the upper left-hand corner. And if you wanted to write that down, you can. And that is to, contact me if you would like to have a copy of this PowerPoint. Um, okay, moving on to the next slide. What is Alzheimer's disease? So Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging. It's a degenerative brain disease that causes cognitive decline and behavioral problems, meaning it's a progressive brain disease that gets worse over time and it cannot be reversed. People cannot recover from an Alzheimer's diagnosis. Alzheimer's is a dementia, but not all dementias are Alzheimer's disease. Dementia is more like an umbrella term. It's a syndrome which describes a collection of signs and symptoms such as memory impairment, disruption of thoughts and patterns, disruption of thought patterns, um, impaired reasoning and social function that are caused by, brain diseases. However, symptoms can be managed, but ultimately the symptoms will progress and interfere with everyday tasks and activities. And I'll talk more about that as we go into the other subtopics. Moving on to the next slide, the basics of Alzheimer's disease. Right now, Alzheimer's disease is currently ranked as the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. It kills more people than breast cancer. And since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, dementia deaths have increased by 16%. And in American Indian and Alaskan Native populations, incidence incidents are 13.6% higher than the white population. And that's pretty astounding considering that we are such a small portion of the whole United States population, and yet we are 13.6% higher incidence rates than the largest population in the States. In 2021, it is estimated that Alzheimer's affects 6 million Americans, and by 2050, 13.5 million people just in the United States will develop Alzheimer's disease dementia. And according to a study by Dr. Mario F. Mendez, about 5 to 6% of Alzheimer's disease have early onset, which means they get diagnosed before the age of 65. And 2/3 of Americans over the age of 65 with Alzheimer's dementia are women, and that roughly translates to 3.8 million. Alzheimer's disease is the leading cause of dementia in older adults. Although Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging, Alzheimer's disease is associated with older age, and aging is the biggest risk factor for getting it. Using the estimates from the 2010 census, 10%, roughly 5.3 million people over the age of 65 have Alzheimer's disease in the United States. The percent of people with Alzheimer's rises with age. Out of all the people age 65 to 74, 3% have it, and it goes up to 17% of the people aged 75 to 84. and once again goes up to 32% of the people aged 85 years and older that have Alzheimer's dementia. And of the people who have Alzheimer's dementia, 82% are the age of 75 or older. So Alzheimer's disease makes up 60 to 80% of all dementia cases. The total number of people with Alzheimer's disease in the United States in 20, so it's estimated that the total number of people with Alzheimer's disease, dementia in the United States in 2050 is projected to be 13.8 million, with 7 million aged 85 years or older. And according to Alzheimer's Association website, it is reported that 1 in 3 seniors dies with an Alzheimer's or another dementia. Oh, and according to an estimate I found on the National Institute of Health's website, people over the age of 65 will make up 16% of the world's population by 2050. And taking into consideration that the global education access is expected to decrease dementia prevalence. However, the anticipated trends in smoking and obesity will continue to rise. The prevalence of Alzheimer's disease is anticipated to triple up to 150 million globally. And that's in the year 2050. And a fact about Alzheimer's disease is it's named after Dr. Alois Alzheimer's, which he was a clinical psychiatrist and a neuroanatomist. Dr. Alois Alzheimer's reported to have a 50-year-old female patient whom had a severe disease process in the cerebral cortex. She was admitted for paranoia, progressive sleep and memory disturbance, aggression, and confusion. It was only after her death he was able to look at her brain, where he documented biological markers noted as neurofibrillary tangles and distinct plaques, known as a beta peptide plaques. In 1910, Alois's findings were first published in the 3rd edition of Psychiatry, which included the name of the disease, named after him, Alzheimer's disease. Okay, next page. How is a person with Alzheimer's disease affected? So the disease progression spans over several phases. A person with the disease may experience changes in the brain up to 20 years before an actual diagnosis. In this preclinical phase, there is no clinical symptoms, but there is evidence of nerve cell death, inflammation, and plaque accumulation in the brain. And then this is followed by, the clinical duration of 8 to 10 years, where someone will begin to experience mild cognitive impairment, which causes a minor but noticeable decline in the brain's cognitive function. People with mild cognitive impairment have difficulty learning new information, or their recall may be significantly impaired. Mild cognitive impairment goes beyond cognitive impairments expected from a person's age and education. Not all mild cognitive impairment goes on to be an Alzheimer's disease or dementia, but some examples of mild cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's disease concerns would be like poor judgment and trouble with decision making, problems with planning and understanding instructions, um, and trouble learning new information. Next would be followed by the dementia diagnosis. So their cognitive abilities further decline and cause impairment in functional abilities. Language and being able to communicate will get worse over time. In the early stage, a person may function independently. He or she may still drive. Um, um, but I guess they will begin having difficulty performing tasks in social or work settings. Despite this, the person may feel as if they are having memory lapses, such as forgetting familiar words or locations of everyday objects. This person may experience increased trouble with planning and organizing as well. In the mid stage, this is typically the longest stage and can last for many years. As the disease progresses, the person with Alzheimer's will require a greater level of care. Um, somebody might be seen acting in unexpected ways because they might be getting frustrated or angry. Also, damage to nerve cells in the brain can make it difficult for a person to express and perform routine tasks without assistance. And this stage is followed by the late stage, where symptoms are severe. Individuals lose the ability to respond to their environment, to carry on a conversation, and eventually to control movement. So they may still be able to say some words and phrases, but communicating pain may be difficult. Cognitive skills continue to worsen. Significant personality changes occur, and individuals need extensive care during this stage. And in this stage, a person's physical domain will be affected. A person may have trouble swallowing, talking, and experience incontinence. Okay, next page. Risk factors for Alzheimer's disease. Genetics and family history will put you at risk for Alzheimer's disease, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will get it. Vascular diseases, that head to heart, heart to head connection, when it's disrupted for long periods of time, it increases your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Examples, could be like high blood pressure, aneurysms, stroke, obesity. Older age is the greatest risk factor for developing Alzheimer's disease. Older age is a risk factor, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it. It just increases your chances of getting it as you grow older. Next page. Okay, these last couple of pages are the resources I used for this PowerPoint presentation. Feel free to send me an email if you would like a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. I shared my email at the beginning of the presentation, but I'll also leave it at the podcast hosting page as well.